Servus Männer, it's Red Bull Germany again. As you can see, it has snowed a little bit in Germany and I decided to take a little trip to beautiful Dinkelsbühl. That is a historic city. It's a city that is close to Rothenburg, and it is also very popular with tourists, German tourists and international tourists alike. Just like Rothenburg, it was a free imperial city. It had the status of Reichsunmittelbarkeit, sorry, my Franconian dialect, Reichsunmittelbarkeit, and that means that there was no lord between the emperor and the city. That was very good for the citizens because the emperor was not here a lot. He was normally traveling or had business elsewhere, and he left them alone for the most part, so they could manage their affairs as they saw fit. And that was, in the Middle Ages, of course, very nice compared to having to deal with a prince bishop or some other kind of lord who probably squeezes you dry and messes with your ability to make a living and to earn income, just like our leaders do now. So, as you can see, most imperial cities and also Dinkelsbühl here, they have protected city walls. You see, the walls are still intact. You can, at some gates, you can also climb them and have a look around. And for the most part, I think Dinkelsbühl is famous for the city walls, for the romantic cobblestone streets, and for the German houses. You see this Fachwerkhaus here, for example, and the city is full of these kinds of houses. It also has a very nice Christmas market, and I am going there at the moment. Here you can see that not many people are outside, but I have been in the center already. That is not the case there. It is just, this is kind of a side street, and I wanted to start by showing you the city walls. That is why I started here. There are also nice wells. In many imperial cities, you also see these octagonal, I think that's the word, wells, those 8-cornered well structures. And you see that in Rothenburg, you see that in many cities, and here there are these octagonal shapes too. This was a different specimen though. Yeah, if it wasn't for the very new cars, you might actually think that we are still in a bygone era, still in maybe not the Middle Ages, but in the Baroque times or something like that, the 16th, 17th century. Certain corners look like that. Obviously, in the summer and spring and autumn, it's also very nice here, but now it's winter time. It's maybe a little grayer, a little calmer, but you have Christmas decorations. Well, these ones are not that pretty, but in the city, I think, in the center, they did a good job decorating also the towers with some lights here and there. And people are right now in the center trying to get their Christmas trees. I saw there is a huge sale on Christmas trees, and even though, as I said, it looks differently here right now, but people don't seem to care so much about the lockdown and about the contact bans. Well, they wear their masks, as you saw already in Magdeburg and in Munich, where I was. But here also, I mean, they wear their masks, but they're still going shopping, they're still doing what they would normally do. Maybe they keep a little more distance. But our politicians, they mean to say that we should stay at home altogether and not go shopping at all. And the people are clearly not complying with these orders. It's also a nice street. So here you can see this little road here goes up to the city wall, to this tower again. And I'm just gonna take a side street to the center now to avoid traffic, which is generally what I would recommend if you are taking a walk in one of these cities. Don't just follow the traffic, don't just go where everybody goes. I would say as long as you're within the city walls, you probably can see a lot of nice things, and probably you have more shade here and it is more quiet, and you see things that not everybody sees. Not every Chinese tourist who has 12.7 minutes for the city before the bus leaves again. And well, why not come in winter? You know, why not come in winter when there are less tourists here? Of course, I don't know how many tourists are normally here when there is a Christmas market in a normal year, if we ever get a normal year ever again. Okay, there is a lot of construction, so I will take another detour. What was I saying? Yeah, so normally in winter, I don't know, could be that there are also many tourists because the Christmas market is maybe famous, I don't know. But generally in winter, unless you go to the Nuremberg Christmas market or something like that, I would say there are less tourists than in summer. So if you want to explore a little more and you want some peace and quiet, maybe the winter is not such a bad season for that purpose. All right, one more detour. There is a lot of construction. Yeah, what else can I say about Dinkelsbühl? I can say, for example, that the city was on the Protestant side pretty early on, and then it became Catholic again. And that meant that the majority of the citizenry was Protestant, but the magistrate was then later on a Catholic. And that meant that there was a lot of conflict. Oh, I want to see that. There was a lot of conflict in the city between the denominations, between Catholic and Protestant. This is very usual for this region in Germany. And it went back and forth also between Bavaria and Swabia and whatnot. So I read that in the medieval imperial diet, they were sitting at the table of the Swabian free cities. It is close to Swabia. So this area here, you can look it up. It is in the district of Ansbach, which is central Franconia. And that is the western part, the southwestern part. And that means that it is kind of where the Bavarian sphere, the Swabian sphere, and the Frankish, the Franconian sphere are touching. And that is why the dialect of this region is also kind of a mixture of these regional dialects. All right, so now I would say I'm in the center, and I would just walk a little loop here so that you get to see a lot of these magnificent buildings. Maybe it would look better in the sunlight, but I think with Christmas decorations under this gray sky, it's also nice to look at actually. So as you can see, there are a lot of cars parked here, a lot of traffic, and the stores were all decorated. Maybe the owners hope that there is a little bit of business to be had before the year is finally over. They were of course all hoping that the November lockdown would take care of the infection numbers so that they could open again for Christmas, for the Christmas sale and all that stuff. But it looks like as if this didn't work out, and now we have an even stricter lockdown, as I reported before. So this is kind of the last chance, I guess, before the politicians will close down the shops for good for this year probably. So that is why the stores are open. Well, some of them are closed also, but everything is still decorated and people are shopping. As I said, they want to get their Christmas trees and maybe also some presents and some nice food before they are locked up again at home. Yeah, that is the situation. So this video, as you can tell by now, I guess, is some kind of a mixture of the current situation, a report on that, and how it looks like in a small town that would probably normally now be very, very busy and very crowded with tourists. Now we're getting into the area of the Christmas market. Yeah, here the sign says keep your distance and wear a mask. Well, that's what I'm doing. And there you have it. Nicely decorated stores, and there is even a Glühwein booth outside. What a wonderful little square. Many churches, of course there are Catholic and Protestant churches, as I just said. I think 2/3, 66% of the citizens are Protestant and 1/3 is Catholic. At least this is according to the last census. Let me see, there is a mail delivery here. So this is a very nice example of a German house. It's a very famous spot. Hotel Deutsches Haus. So yeah, that's kind of self-explanatory. Yeah, and you see nice decorations here. And I'm just gonna walk around a little more so that you can get an impression of Dinkelsbühl. Yeah, I wonder. I mean, the Catholic-Protestant conflict is probably not so important anymore these days. Maybe nowadays it is more like, not do you believe in transubstantiation, but it's more like, do you believe in viruses that kill after 9 p.m. or I don't know. Maybe more like that. All right. So here you can see Christmas trees are being sold in front of this beautiful church. See, I want to leave these people alone here. Not everybody wants to be on camera, of course. But it's a good thing most people are wearing masks, so you don't see their faces anyway. All right. Ah, very nice. This looks like a Baroque house to me. You have these Mother Mary statues. Looks like a house from the Baroque era. Very beautiful. So that's a cake shop. Ooh. Yeah. It's a narrow street, or we call it Gasse. It leads up to a portal of this church. Yeah, it's even Kirchgässlein. Gässlein is the diminutive of Gasse, and Gasse already means a small street, a very small, narrow, tiny street. And when you say Gässlein or Gässchen, the diminutive forms, then it means something that's really narrow, like this here. Huh? See a lot of that in Rothenburg also. Let's just see where it takes us, or if this is a Einbahnstraße, cul-de-sac. Doesn't lead anywhere. Ah, okay, we get out again. And this is the next gate, you see. And this is one of these octagonal wells that I was talking about with the double eagle. Yeah, an imperial well. Of course, now there are booths around it. It is a market square. These wells are normally at the market square, and that is why it is not so easy, or you cannot take a good picture of it right now, probably. Stadt Dinkelsbühl, and this nice well in front of the church. Very nice, very nice. This is an old museum. Here you have the tourist information, Haus der Geschichte, the House of History. So this is a good spot here to start a tour, I would think. Outside of this gate there is a parking lot also. And let's see, we're at the city wall again, on the other side now. With these city walls, right? In Rotenburg I made the mistake. I walked through there. This is where the cars go. The pedestrians, they're supposed to take this opening here. So when you come here, don't walk through the place where the cars go through, because it's narrow enough as it is, and they have to figure out who goes first anyway. So tourists are just bothering them then. See, this little river here is frozen. Yeah, so that was my little walking tour for you around Dinkelsbühl. I recorded some more footage. Maybe I will cut that and then post that in the future if I have some free time. I think it's a very nice city, Dinkelsbühl. I will definitely come again. As you can tell by now, I have a thing somewhat for these free imperial towns in this area of Germany. Yeah, you can say it's Stauferland, the land of the Staufer family, or this area between Bavaria and Swabia. That is a very, very interesting region, I think, and it has a lot of these imperial cities. And even cities that were not imperial cities are worth visiting here. A lot of medieval structures can still be found here. You have a lot of smaller museums here. Maybe not all the towns are as well known with international tourists, and maybe if you do some research you can get or you can find a nice town with beautiful medieval structures and nice restaurants that are not overrun by Chinese tourists. Well, but this point is kind of moot anyway if we won't have air travel ever again, and people will be locked up and kept like cattle or serfs. As you know, for example, in the Middle Ages, the farmers or the serfs, they belonged, actually, they were actual literal property of their lords, and that meant they belonged to the village just like a vineyard or just like a forest or like a wheat field. They were inventory, they were farm equipment, and I guess they want to hide it somewhat and they want to make up some new words and some confusing terms, but I guess we will go into that direction again. And back then, at least there were free imperial cities where you were not farm equipment, but where you were a free citizen that is only responsible or only accountable to the emperor himself. I don't think in the New World Order that we will get such a status as citizens of free imperial towns. I think we will all be serfs. So maybe it's not going back to the Middle Ages, maybe it's going somewhere that is actually worse in terms of civil rights and freedoms and liberties, because there won't be any city walls that will protect us from what's about to come. So I have a suspicion that neo-feudalism will be much worse than historic medieval European feudalism. Take care. Servus, Kameraden.